tell me what you do
Okay.
in as much detail as possible without getting fired.
Okay. So I'm in crisis communications for the U.S. government. Specifically, it's with policy messaging over the Middle East and Central Asia. So essentially, it's PR, right?
Okay.
But on steroids. So I'm coordinating with stakeholders such as embassies, host nations, depending on what the situation is, and then aligning that messaging with joint staff to make sure that our public messaging is supporting the Department of Defense goals, as well as communicating to the general public.
Okay, so I understood all that.
No, I know. It's literally PR.
PR.
Like, when you look at the news, right? Yeah. When things happen in the Middle East, it's doing that middle coordination, making sure that the facts are relayed, but also it's strategic messaging alignment, as well as working with all of the different facets and agencies that are involved. There's a lot more behind the scenes work that happens than just seeing something on the news.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because there's probably obviously, so the way that I'm looking at it is like you are the person who makes sure that the story is communicated properly to America.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that's you are like the bridge, right? You are like the middle ground.
Yes, correct. I mean, yes, the U.S. is one audience, but there is a much larger audience. You have the world. You have specifically my team. We have a group of linguists or interpreters, because I might be saying something in English that doesn't translate the same, and vice versa. So there's constantly different facets that we are monitoring, evaluating, and every day it's a different role, but that's like the gist of it, I'd say.
Do you feel like an absolute badass doing that role?
There are days where, I mean, when I'm leaving, I'm like, wow, how did I get in this? I don't know if badass is the word. It's definitely, you're familiar with the term Dharma. I think we talked about this before.
Oh yeah, we've had some deep conversations about the Dharma.
Yes, but in that sense of, I wouldn't say badass, but there are many moments where I am just so grateful to be able to be part of something bigger and use my area of expertise, which I would call chaos coordinating.
Chaos coordinating.
Yeah, I have in my office, I have a mouse pad that says that actually, but, and using it to do something good.
Yeah.
Every job has its own facets, but I am grateful that I'm able to use my skill set to serve the bigger picture, if you will.
So I want to take that background and apply it to some of the ideas, things that I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
First, I'm curious, what is the quick and dirty, how the hell did you get into that?
Working hard and the universe just aligning things in my favor that I had no idea were even options, I think is the quick. No. So it started out more so with community relations.
Okay.
So initially it was organizing different events at that time I was living in Poland. So it was units in that area coordinating with, I did a cooking class where they were learning how to make pierogies with the senior citizens.
The Polish little dough thing, right?
Yes, yes, right. So much more fun. And then that was before the Ukraine conflict kicked off. Shortly after that is when I moved into this position, which is much more kinetic. Not as much, we still do some fun community relations things, but it's a little bit more challenging.
Okay.
Given the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
But so it kind of started out with community relations and then crisis communications, and which is pretty much parallel to strategic communications or strategic messaging.
Okay. So when you tell a guy at a bar that, how does that go? The wrong men are intimidated, the right men are interested. We're probably going to get into that kind of thing.
I've had all different reactions. I've had where
What are the good ones? Like, what are the
So the
that
one
you can like talk about without?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think they even know who they are.
Poor
The
guys.
one that's the one that is burned into my brain, but it helped me grow once I looked at the situation. But initially, that was the first time where I went from being so proud of what I do to, oh, maybe I'm too much. And so so when I first moved here, and I just met this guy, and we were talking and vibing, and then we were texting, and small talk, of course. What do you do? What do you do? And I said what I do to the best of my ability, and it was like a 180 change in energy. And that was the first time where I thought, maybe I should downplay what I do. I don't know why that's my initial.
So what was the change of energy?
Just completely pulled away, aloof, which I'm not him, so I can't speak to what his triggers were, but likely something in his past, right, that I reminded him of. But for me, in that state that I was in, because I was putting my value in other people, I took it as, oh, let me downplay myself, not the logical of, oh, this is probably just not my person. And then ever since then, I stopped posting about any work trips, or I would really downplay what I did. And then I would kind of test the waters. Some guys, I'd say it, and they don't even acknowledge anything I said. Maybe because they don't want to sound dumb by asking questions, which is silly, but then it comes across as not really listening. So, I mean, you have a wide spread of, and then you have the guys that are in their wounded masculine energy, and that's a whole conversation in its own, that think that it's really cool and they're supportive, and then as time goes by, it brings out insecurities and triggers that they maybe didn't even know that they had to deal with. But yeah, it's a array of reactions.
I will have to say that the first time I met you, I think you said something very vanilla.
Probably.
That was something like, I'm in the Army, or is that what it was? I'm in the Army, I do communications or something.
Yeah, I probably just said, right? I'm in PR.
Right, PR, something like that. And I was like, oh, like, that's cool, right? And then I think we had like a little gathering at your apartment, and I looked at some of the pictures on the fridge, and I was like, this is not fucking PR. I'm like, this is a badass right here. Right. And you were Laura Croft that night. It was the Halloween night. Right. And I was like, Laura Croft. I was like, this makes sense. Like, this checks out. And I remember like looking at the things on the fridge and being like, wow, like, you think you know somebody, and then we really only know what they are comfortable telling us. Right. Like, to your point, there's probably some things you can't legally talk about, where it's like, this is what I can tell you about some of the things that I do. Yet if you really knew me, you would see this on my fridge, right? I think you had like a picture of you with like all of these guys, all like, you had like camo on your face. I was like, this is sick. Yeah. I was like, this looks awesome. Yes. So I think it's an interesting balance of not dimming your light, because I think the right guys are going to really appreciate the person you are. Right, and the stuff that you bring to the table, especially the service that you provide for communicating to the public. Right, so it's got to, like, one of the questions I had here was, right, has your career ever intimidated guys? Yeah. Right, like, so you had the one example of the full 180. Yeah. Were there any other examples that come out off the top of the head?
Yeah, there's the more dangerous ones, where, to my comment of the wounded masculine.
Yeah, I want to learn more about that.
Yeah, well, I had to learn about it too after that all ended, and I'm in therapy of okay, I can only control my actions. What drew me to this person? Because at the end of the day, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you just repeat them. And I was like, Lord, I am getting too old to be making the same mistakes. So that's when I learned about wounded masculine energy. But to your original question of someone like that, where initially off the bat sounds supportive. And as time goes on in the relationship, things bring out insecurities. And that's just being in a relationship, right? It's realizing you can do all the work that you can on your own, but there are always going to be things that you have to work through. Unfortunately, in this scenario, now looking at it from the outside, looking in, a lot of times when I would talk about work or even just coming home and venting about something that happened today, like normal, like you do in a relationship, it would cause significant arguments. And I could never, and I'm like, I'm in communications, for God's sake. Like, am I communicating wrong?
What am I doing wrong?
Yeah. And now looking back at it, seeing that someone that is operating in wounded masculine energy does not have the capacity to take on anyone else's emotions, because they have buried their own for so long that someone else voicing something, such as me talking about work or even just something going on my day, he viewed it as a challenge to prove his own worth, to prove that his career was more important, or downplay something that I was feeling or my reality of a situation at work in order to make it seem not such a big deal. He had his own insecurities that he needed to work through, but because he didn't have the emotional capacity to be there and provide that emotional safety that I needed, which ultimately forced me to be in a masculine energy when I came home, and that's not what I want in a relationship. Everyone's different, but if I am already in that kind of decision-making mode, goal-oriented at work, at home, if I am not able to step out of that, then it's no longer a safe environment. And at the end of the day, as a female, I can't speak for all females, but like, there is a need for that safety. So that was the overall arching lesson that it took a while to learn, but now you can spot it instead of changing and dimming your own light.
So one of the things that I want to talk about, because I feel like we've had a lot of conversations before about the energy, the masculine versus the feminine energy. And so, like, what would you say are some of the big differences, right, between masculine energy versus feminine energy?
Yeah. So when you're talking about masculine and feminine energy, first of all, it's actually not gender specific. It ties back to Chinese philosophy, and it's the yin and the yang. It's like this magnet, right? Like, initially when I put it on, it like shot.
It propelled.
Yeah,
we almost lost it. It's my $100 microphone almost gone, and then it's
exactly. But that's why it's funny, because I was like, oh, it's like feminine and masculine energy, right? Of there's a pull or there's a push. We actually all have both. But so feminine is more nurturing. It's emotion, it's creativity. It's not in the sense of, oh, I will be everything for everyone and do whatever anyone tells me. I think that's kind of a stereotype we have. And same with, or opposite, masculine. A lot of times I think society views it as just hardened, strong, no emotion. That's not true masculine either. But so the feminine is that more nurturing, almost like the motherly kind of instinct or figure. And there is the emotional aspect as well. Whereas for the masculine, you have more stable. It's the achiever, the doer, goal-oriented. And again, we all have both. It's not gender specific. But most of the time, generalizing, people automatically assume feminine, female, masculine, male, you have to be fully this, I have to be fully this. And it's not at all that way.
What ratio would you say you are composed of masculine versus feminine energy?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And then I want you to tell me what you think about it.
Well, it actually doesn't have a simple answer, because while it sounds like it would be something that is like a steadfast ratio, like your, I don't know, your BMI or like, your body mass index. It actually changes depending on the situation you're in.
It's a great point.
So,
great point.
Like for instance, when I am in the work environment, it's full on masculine energy. Most of the time, I am the only female in meetings. But that's what I have learned to do to survive. I mean, just going back, you can look at most people are so out of touch of what they naturally are. It's what has society and their environment made them to be. So, like, I moved out when I was 17. I've been in this for some time. That I automatically gravitate towards masculine energy. I'm very much a doer and achiever.
I feel that too.
Yeah.
Like, I feel your masculine energy. Like, first time I met you, I was like, all right, like, she's getting shit done, which is cool, right? Yeah. It's an attractive quality, which is interesting to say, like, hey, I'm attracted to her masculine energy. Right? Right? Like, does that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it can also be, if that's something that you see that gravitates you, it might be the aspect of maybe you're attracted to someone that is an achiever. Not necessarily, I want a woman that's fully in her masculine, right? And this is where it gets really tricky in today's society of you have a lot of people that don't know how to reevaluate and reassess and change the level of energy that they are showing up in when they come out of work or in different environments. So like someone as myself, it's taken practice and trust that when I leave work and I come home, I do have to kind of switch. And sometimes it does require a strong personality that also can communicate, because don't be mean if you're telling me that I need to like take a chill pill, but of being like, hey, you're not at work anymore. You don't need to, you're not in survival mode. You can let that part go. Just relax, breathe, don't tell me to take a chill pill because that's not gonna make me chill, but so I naturally gravitate more towards that masculine, but when I come out of work, like that's being in my feminine is where I am supposed to be. That's where I thrive. And I didn't know that until I stopped putting myself in situations with wounded masculine, because I was never truly safe and my inner body knew that. So I never truly let go of masculine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what's coming up for me is it's kind of like a spectrum.
Yeah.
Right? Depending upon the environment you're in, right? You use the example of, hey, at work, I'm going to be 90% masculine, 10% feminine type of thing. And I think about like the times when I was playing football. Majority of the time that was high masculine energy, right? Yet the times where I'm working with young men, I have to drop into a little bit of feminine energy, and I have to meet them where they are with some sensitive topics that we might be talking about.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think there is this underlying, we talk about emotional intelligence, right?
Yes.
Which we've talked to the ends of the earth about, and what does it mean to be emotionally intelligent? I think this is like the kind of the basis of it, right? Understanding in this environment, what is the energy that I need to possess to ultimately get the result that I want, right? Or the result that I collectively want with my girlfriend, boyfriend, with my boss, my coworkers, right? Like if it's just you and there's nobody else affected, I guess you can go any energy you want, right? I mean, depending upon where you are. Yet if there's other people involved, that's where I think this idea of emotional intelligence or managing these two energies comes into play, because you have emotion and I have emotion. So now I have to understand, what emotional energy do I need to bring to the table, and what emotional energy is she bringing to the table?
Yes.
In this environment, right? Like right now, we're doing a podcast at CrossFit Thumbs Up in South Tampa. What kind of energy do we need? Probably a little bit of both, right? We're going to dive into some emotional things. We're going to talk about guy stuff, right? So it's like, it's dependent probably upon the question or the topic.
Yeah.
So I think an important piece to what you're saying is be aware of the energy needed in a given moment.
Yes.
And what would you say if someone doesn't know what energy they need in a moment?
I think that baseline is where you revert to what is your genuine, authentic self, right? Because if you don't have a baseline for that and someone says something or does something and you feel triggered, if I'm not secure in who I am, like for instance, the guy that did the 180, I immediately felt the need to completely change myself. And I felt the need to hide everything about while those aspects were masculine about me and they weren't bad, I viewed them as bad. And so you have to do that work on yourself and then ask yourself, it's like a continual assessment, right? Every day, different interactions are going to bring out things in you, and you have to have that emotional intelligence to be an adult and not react, but also not just blow it off, because then you're not even dealing with it. It's taking a step back when you can and saying, what about that bothered me? That'll allow you to assess and show up again. But I think especially for males, right? Like you guys have a more challenging role in the sense of you are expected to not only have your emotions, and you do, but society sometimes trains guys to think that they can't. But when you're in a relationship, now you have your own pile of emotions, and then if you have a woman, now I've got to navigate her emotions. And if I've had a day, I've got to have emotional intelligence to be able to hold my emotions over here and also give her space, and somehow we meet in the middle. Like, it's
sounds messy.
Yeah, but the baseline is you have to know yourself, know thyself. Because if you don't, whether it is your significant other or your friendship or whatever, and they hit you with this energy and you don't know how to show up, well, then you're going to end up stepping in a pitfall. You're going to end up whether offending them or being triggered or lashing out, and maybe you don't know why you lashed out. It all starts with, what's my baseline? Who am I? Sort through your own crap so that you don't trauma dump accidentally on someone else because you didn't have the emotional intelligence or capacity to read and assess the room.
And I think what you said requires courage.
Yes.
That internal courage where looking at, I just got, whether you want to use the word triggered. I'm personally not a huge fan of triggered because I think everybody just abuses it.
Yeah.
I think realizing, they said something or did something and I had a thought that I really didn't like and it made me feel a certain way. And why is that? Like, what am I still holding on to and making a part of my narrative that is still affecting the way that I feel if this gets brought up? And we did there's this idea that I created. It's like an emotional tipping point, right? It's like if somebody was talking about a certain topic, and when would it get to a point where I got offended? Or when would it get to a point where I'm like, now this is bothering me? And I think it's important to know that, because know thyself, right? Understand that. And I think too, like doing this internal work, like for any of the guys who are listening to this is the stuff that women are looking for, because we become a higher valued product. Like to put it bluntly, we become a man that understands more about what's important to me, the things that I'm still working on, and it's a more complete package. And I think there's a lot of guys who might hear this and be like, feminine energy and understanding my emotions, that's weak, right? They might just not understand this yet, right? They might be at a lower level of emotional maturity. And I think a big goal of the work that I try to do is to help guys realize that going into these emotions and just talking about them is the hard thing. Like, if we want to talk about, hey, guys doing hard things, any guy can work out, any guy can do push-ups and all this. It's like, what if we talked about the time when that girl dumped you and you thought you were a piece of shit for a whole month? Like, how did that feel?
Yeah.
Right? And like, what did you do to get over that? Are you still holding on to that? right? Or what did you do when you saw your ex-girlfriend post that picture with that new guy and boom, you got anxious for 6 months?
Yeah.
Like, what were those thoughts like, right? And so, and actually talk about that and give guys like a platform to not be judged and be like, yeah, this is what I thought, and do it in a confident and strong manner.
Yeah.
That is understanding, shining a light on those scarier thoughts. So I think this feminine and masculine energy is so important, especially when it comes to like leadership. I think feminine energy is so important in leadership because it's about the way that you make certain people feel. And then if you can make someone feel seen, heard, and understood, right, you're gonna have a team that's gonna run through a brick wall for you, right? Yeah. So it's probably a little bit more feminine energy. Now, having said that, there are probably some times when I need to click into masculine energy. Exactly. I need to be a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more intense or focused. So I love the idea of having this on a spectrum, right? And knowing when to tune it up or tune it back type of thing. It's tricky, right? A little messy at times. So the other thing I want to shift a little bit into relationships and attraction.
Okay.
All right. So this is a good question.
I'm nervous now.
All right. So we'll start off with an easier one. What's the fastest green flag that you've ever seen with a guy?
So I'll give 2 examples, which it sounds dumb, but like I was just calling my girlfriends like, I can't believe, but this
wow,
just,
you called the girls right after?
Yes.
Wow,
but
what
again,
a guy.
This just goes, it's not, girls are not that complicated. Like, really not. Feed us, no. But so I went to a hockey game with this guy, and the emotional maturity or the emotional intelligence of looking at the situation later, I was like, why was this such a like mind-blowing aspect? But he's the first guy to open my door for me. And I know we always hear like, yes, you should do that. You would be surprised at the amount of guys that don't. And because I am learning to step into my feminine energy, I'm not going to be the kind of girl that is like, you didn't open my door, right? It loses the beauty of it if I'm having to tell you to do it. So that, I was like, okay, that's cool. But
door for the car?
For the car, yes. Sorry, we're going to my mind jumped. We're going to the hockey game. He opens the door for the car. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, first person that's ever done this.
So that was a quick little green.
Yes, it was a mental note, but not enough yet to call the girls. It was cool, but okay. So we're at the hockey game. And the way of how like there's a crowd and he is not like throwing me out of the way, but in a very kind of graceful, like nonchalant, where I almost didn't notice it. And then I was like, wait, what's happening? Where he kind of uses his body to kind of put himself between me and whatever crowd. And then on the street, he was so nonchalant, and then I caught it, where we're walking, and every time we turn, and I'm just like yapping, not paying attention, and he's just moving me to the inside, moving me to the inside, moving me to the inside. While that little aspect seems kind of like, so what? It's the principle of him operating in his healthy masculine, which is a protector and provider, and almost giving me like a covering. And it wasn't like he was like, look what I did, but it was something that I noticed, because you hear about the guy should walk on the outside of the sidewalk and closest to the street, but I've never seen it, never in real life.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny you said that, because I honestly don't really know if I ever very consciously did that. Yet since when that happened and you told me about this person who had done that, I do that every single time now. This morning, I went on a walk with a friend, and I did it initially I just grabbed her and I just moved her. Yeah. And she was like, and she kind of like looked at me, I was like, I go on the inside. And when I realized, the interesting thing is that typically when people walked by, they walked on the inside. So it was kind of like I was the protective barrier to her.
Yeah.
And I realized too that like I say hi to everybody. It's like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And so it was almost like I was just letting people know like, hey, hi. Like
Yeah,
I'm
I
here.
see
Like
you.
I'm like, don't try to go nuts. Don't try to attack. Like I'm here. You're good. And I also noticed that the homeless individuals were on the inside and they would saying stuff and I'm on the inside, protecting now. And so, and I did it like at first it was like a joke and I was just like, no, like I'm on the inside.
Yeah.
And then I was just naturally going to the inside.
Yeah.
So thank you for telling me about that, because I don't know if I fully ever did that, yet now it's like, this is a thing.
But how did it feel when you did it? Like you said, at first it was kind of a joke, but then you just naturally.
So one of the things that I have felt a lot of lately in doing this work is I feel like I want to be more protective, right? Like this energy of like, nobody's gonna fuck with you. Like you're good. And I don't know if that's because growing up, I felt like I wasn't that type of person. Maybe I was more timid and a little bit more shy. Whereas now it's like, you're good, right? Like you don't need to, I saw this one Instagram post of, do you know who Cody Sanchez is?
Yes.
All right, so her husband is an ex-Navy SEAL,
Yeah.
I think, right? Badass.
Yeah.
She goes, when I get in the car, my brain literally clicks off.
Yeah.
She
yes,
goes,
it's a
I know
thing.
I'm going to literally get to the place safe. The car is going to be successfully parked. The car door is going to be opened. And she goes, and the food is going to be like put on the table. She's like, and I'll just be fed and I'll be happy. And she's like, and then like my brain will turn on when I get out of the car. And then when I get back on, I just like float away. And I loved that post because it's like, I think as men, that's something that I think we get a lot of intrinsic value from.
Yeah.
Is like protection.
Yeah.
Right. It's probably like why guys fight more, right? Because it's like, I want to prove that I can protect.
Yeah.
And I think there is something around the biological wiring of, hey, I was put here to protect, right? And I think when guys have a feeling that they can't protect, I think that's when some of the insecurity comes in, some of the regrets start to come in and things like that. So like one of the things I always tell guys is like work out. And now I would even say, start getting involved with a little combat sports.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting people to just start rocking each other. What I'm saying though is like, I started boxing a year and a half ago, and it has totally changed my perception of myself. Where it's like, I'm not gonna be knocking people out left and right, but it's like, if things were to go down, I would know like, hey, get behind me, like we're good.
Right.
And like, that's kind of it. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to get smoked in the face or something, right? But it's like, I just, there's like this small little foundation now where it's like, I know a couple things of like what to actually do in this. And that's a very good feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think there's something to this protective piece of men. And so, right, like one of the things, actually, I would love to get your thoughts on this because this kind of pissed me off.
Uh-oh.
This is triggering, right?
Okay.
If I'm going to use the word triggering.
Yeah.
Have you heard of microfeminisms? Or microfeminism, microfemininity?
No, but I'm going to learn today.
Yeah, so a couple of good buddies of mine.
Microfemininity.
I think it was Tyler, actually. I think it was Tyler Updike. Shout out Tyler Updike. He's going to be on the show anyway, so I'll call him out now. Tyler and I'm pretty sure my other buddy, Dante, they sent me a video. We have a little chat. They sent a video in there, and it was a video of the like hook of it was, what is your microfeminism thing to do for your boyfriend? And it was women doing typically male things for their boyfriend. So then they are like independent and strong and don't need a man. So it was kind of like a woman would run up to the door of the restaurant and open it up for her boyfriend. And then the man would be like, thanks, and walk in and like go to like talk to the hostess, be like, hey, reservation 2 for Liguori.
Yeah.
And she would like run up and go talk to the hostess.
Was it a joke or like
No,
this
like,
is actually how
like
they
she's
operate?
like, these are the things that I do. she's like, I sometimes will open the door for the car for my husband. And so I'm like, all right.
And these are real things?
These are real things. I should see if I can find the video. I maybe post a link of it in the show notes. But so I told this to my business partner, who is in his maybe late 50s, and he wanted to carry his wife's luggage. And she was like, no, like, I got it. And he's like,
that's not the point.
No, like this is like part of our role. And so what I realized was, when women try to do those things, and if there's women listening to this and they get pissed off, frankly, I don't really fucking care, because these are important things to men.
Yeah.
And so she was like, no, I want to do this for myself. And he's like, no, like, this is the thing that, like, this is part of my role. And so then she was like, so then she let him do it. Mm-hmm. It's robbing us of our human nature.
Yeah.
Right? To protect and to provide. And I said, I bet you this is probably a little hyper example of it, but I bet you it's very similar to like a woman who has a baby, and she should be, I believe, the first person to hold that child. She literally bared it in her womb for 9 months, whatever. She should definitely be that first person. It'd kind of be like the father coming in and say, hey, let me get the first hold. That's kind of what I feel like it is. Even though you might think, okay, it was opening the door to go into the restaurant.
It's the principle.
Simple, it's the principle, right?
Yes.
Like, what do you think about that stuff? Sorry, I just wanted to
it
fired me up.
I didn't know about that. I still think it's just, every relationship is different. So like, I'm not going to sit here and say that that's wrong. If it works for them, cool. Love that for you guys. Mm-hmm. That's not going to work for me. But to your point, and I could have been over here just been like, yes. So one of the first things that will always live rent-free in my mind, when I must have been in middle school, but a boy held a door open for me, and I've always been a little Miss Independent, and I remember being like, I don't know what I did, honestly, because I was so little, but I remember his dad, I don't think he scolded me, but I was just like startled, because I think I was like, no, I got it, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then dad was like, that's not the point. A man holds the door open for you, you let him. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about that I can't do it. Sure, I can carry my own luggage. I can, in today's society, I can do a lot for myself. But in all of those things, I'm not operating in my feminine, I'm operating in my masculine. And so to your point of those women that are, I mean, I'm just laughing because
I'll send you the video after. There was like three or four other examples that were tough. Like to your point, like let him open the door. Like It's not us overbearing you. It's kind of like what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Now, from the female side of things, I will say, and this is where any females listening, like, this is the hard truth. It is hard to let go and trust if that trust has been misused so many times. Right?
Say that again. That's very important. Seriously, that's very important.
Yeah. It's hard to let go and trust when that trust has been misused so many times. And that is why you see so many women that are hyper independent, or women that are, I can do it all on my own, because whether they were a little girl put in that situation or they were put in that situation in a relationship, they at some point decided, I will never be in a position where I have to rely on someone else. Mm-hmm. And so you pick up this masculine energy to survive. But as a female, you have to do the work to understand when it's time to let go of the traits that allowed you to survive in order for you to now thrive. And it's hard, and you truly won't find how difficult that is until you are working through a healthy relationship, because I see memes all the time about, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I feel. Where not toxic, but the masculine energy of I can do this on my own, I don't need anyone, is trying to put up that front. But you know that if you just shut down and live in that energy, you're not going to have your emotional needs met. So there are times where I have to let that go and be vulnerable and communicate that this is how something made me feel, even though my natural tendency is to, the moment your energy smells different, I will cut you off so fast. That's my normal, but that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm. And you use all those hand signals to get into it.
I know. That's why normally in meetings I sit on my hands because I talk with my hands. But yeah, to your original point though, it's when I see women like that are not letting men show up in that protector and provider role, that generally tells me because maybe they don't even realize it because they haven't done the work, that they are scared to step out of that masculine. And maybe they don't fully feel safe with that guy. I don't know. I'm not in the relationship. But that is a key aspect. And to your point of, in order for a female to step into her feminine, that man has to be strong in his healthy masculine. Because if we're looking at just primal, right, of survival, why in the world am I going to step into my feminine if I can't trust you to protect me from the tiger? I'm going to stay in my masculine, you know? So I've got to feel safe and protected, and that includes emotional safety, physical safety, however that relationship dynamic is, right? But you have to communicate that because some people don't need as much, some people need a lot, you know? And
that's where I think that intelligence comes into play,
yes.
Right? That emotional intelligence. There was one more video too, as you were talking, I saw, it was this woman, she had like 2 kids, and she was cooking like breakfast or like lunch, some meal for her family. And she was like smiling and having fun. And her husband was like in the background, like playing with like one other kid. And he like walked up to her and like kissed her on the cheek. And she just like smiled. And then like it came across the screen. It was like, when did this become so wrong? Yeah. Right? Like a woman like making right? Like it literally, like I literally was like, that's one of the most beautiful things. It kind of literally almost brings you to tears. Like that to me, because I think about like growing up.
Yeah.
Right? When my mother was making all this food, me and my dad and sister were messing around, and she loved it. Right? And it was, and like from the female or woman providing standpoint, one of the most attractive things is when this might sound wrong, when a woman makes a meal. Like, I think that is one of the most attractive things because I grew up with moms and grandmas who were like, hey, come over, sit down, and I'm going to cook you a delicious meal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play with the dog and this, and we're going to crack jokes. And it was like, it was beautiful to me. And it wasn't like being taken advantage of. It wasn't this, hey, this is the woman versus the male role.
Yeah.
It was their role of providing.
Right.
Right? Like when I was younger, if I needed food, like I went to my mom. I wasn't going to my dad, right? It was like, Mom, I need some food. And she's like, I got you. What do we need, right? Yeah. Like that to me, I think is so beautiful, right? Like and I don't know why that's become so wrong.
The society that we live in, and it goes across in all categories, it is so extreme where, right, the phrase of like, a woman in the kitchen, whatever. I have no problem being in the kitchen, but I am secure enough in myself to know that I can also build stuff pretty well yes. and I can defend myself probably better than most guys, right? But yeah. I'm secure in who I am, and so I don't feel the need to prove by pushing out a man out of those roles, and I'm also not going to get offended if someone is asked, like, you know, I'm able to fall into my feminine because I'm secure in what I'm able to do. Yeah. And not everyone is the same, but in today's society, you do have that very polarized of men do this, women do this, opposed to just operating in that healthy energy, but also not taking advantage of each other, because that is the tricky part about feminine and masculine energy. It's so pure when it's being operated in a healthy way that it can be taken advantage of. like what we were just mentioning.
Yeah. And I think too, even going back to like that stereotype of like a woman cooking or making a meal, I would be like, hey, like, how can I help?
Yes.
Like, right. Like, and allow her to be like, I want you to set the table, or I want you to help me with the bread or this or that, like whatever. Right. So like, hey, like, let me know like what support you need from me. If she was like, hey, I actually need you to kind of make this meal, I'd be like, just fire me up. Like, let's do it. Right. Like, I don't know if it would be as good, but right. Like, but I would still, right, put that, I would still let her know that, hey, I'm not just letting you go alone, right? Like, this is a team thing, right? Like, how do you need me right now?
I'm really glad you said that, because I think I even have guy friends that maybe I need to tell them to watch this podcast. But we'll
get them on and we'll get their perspective on it.
Yeah, but where it's like, yeah, in the kitchen, like that's her role. What am I? Okay, maybe like in most of the time, am I kind of like the head chef of like, hey, I need this. Mm-hmm. Yes, but it's to your point of how can I help? Mm-hmm. It's just that's the difference between just rolling through the mundane things of life and building a connection through the mundane things of life. Like getting off of work, we both had a long day. Okay, communication, emotional intelligence of how do we conquer what needs to happen today, like eating before I get hangry, and still show up for each other. Mm-hmm. Maybe I've had such a stressful day of, okay, babe, tell me what you need. I'm going to go to the store. Mm-hmm. Or vice versa, but none of that can happen without communication. But yes, I cannot express the amount of times where just someone, especially a guy, of saying, how can I help? Well, what do you need from me? Opposed to just sitting in the corner. Oh, I thought you had dinner. I have dinner, but it'd be nice if to not feel alone.
Exactly, right? Yeah. To not feel alone. Like, I remember once I had my last, it was my last girlfriend. We went to like the mall one day. That was a long day at the mall. Not a big mall guy. And we came home and she was like, you look tired. She goes, sit down on the couch, turn the football game on. She's like, I'll make us some quesadillas. And I like almost started crying. And I was like, that was the sweetest thing I think anybody's ever said to me. And I was like, what, like, you sure? Like, what do you need help with? She's like, no. She's like, I kind of want to do this right now. And I was just like, all right. And so I literally sat my ass on the couch and turned on the game, and it was fantastic, right? Yeah. So I do think there's this balance of understanding what is the help that you need, that you would like from me right now.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that line, hey, how can I help, is such a loving and caring, feminine energy, probably type of approach to building a good relationship.
Yeah. But to the flip side, the communication of the first times I did not communicate what I needed. And I was like, it's fine. I can just do, because I'm
just brushed it off type of thing.
Because now I'm sliding back into the masculine of, I can do this, Mm-hmm. But while like your girlfriend was absolutely falling into the feminine of, I got you. I've read that your energy is low. I'm going to do, the nurturing things. Mm-hmm. Did I want to do the nurturing things? Yes. But subconsciously, I kind of wanted help. That was my fault for not communicating. You guys executed well. My scenario, I did not. And because he is emotionally intelligent, he immediately picked up on my energy change and was like, what's up? Mm-hmm. And also the way of communication. It's not like, what's wrong now? Yep. That's going to immediately put me in my masculine. I'm not going to feel safe to talk about anything. Mm-hmm. And so while it was uncomfortable for me to say, I kind of would have liked for you to offer, right? That felt silly, but I trusted, was vulnerable, and said that. Immediately, he was receptive of, I'm more than happy to help. Just tell me what you need next time. I can't read your mind. So it's a dance in everything, but especially in the masculine and feminine energy. It's a give and take. It's a dance, the emotional intelligence, the being able to read each other, and then communicating. If I thought I had it and now I'm all of a sudden really tired, okay, communicate. Hey, I really thought I didn't need help, but I just forgot, like, I don't know why I was gonna say wood, because I need wood in no scenario, but like, hey, actually, I need this grilled instead.
Like a wood-fired
Honestly,
wood-fired stove or something.
I was picturing like, the smokers with like.
Well, that's what I was picturing too.
I don't own one of those, and I do not know how to work a grill. I'll just throw that out there. I'm a fantastic cook.
And that's something that, like, as a man, I think we should know how to use a grill.
But to that point of like the things that, like, if you feel like there are things that like men should know how to do this, take the initiative and learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my car battery died last month. I know a lot about little things. Cars, nothing. I call my dad every time I'm getting oil changed. I'm like, Dad, they want me to do this. What do I do? And so luckily the guy was like, oh, it's like, I turn on the noise because I was like, it's not starting. I don't know what to do. Right. So I'm in panic. My emotions are everywhere. I think I'd already missed work the day before. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to, And he's like, okay, breathe. Let me hear. And he's like, okay, it's not your starter. It's your engine. I'm like,
okay, still don't know what that is.
Yeah, he's like, I'll be right there. He comes down and he's like, what tools do you have? But immediately takes, like, so calm. And meanwhile, I'm just like frantic, emotional, immediately takes control of the situation, gets the tools. It's like, oh, here, blah, blah, blah. Like, just, and also teaches me like how I need to do this. But ultimately, like, does it. I'm not saying you have to know how to build a car, but like, there are certain scenarios where if you feel like, I don't know, you don't know how to change a tire, you might want to learn, or have a really good friend like on speed, like, just, you've got to set yourself, especially as guys, in my opinion, set yourself up for success to have that confidence. You're not gonna have confidence if you don't know how to do things that are kind of that protector role. Mm-hmm. And if anything, it'll make you become defensive, because internally, I think a guy will subconsciously feel like, I should have showed up, even if he doesn't admit it.
I 1000% agree with you on that, because I believe that confidence comes from evidence. Mm-hmm. So getting evidence in those things that men, and I want to be careful using the word should, because I think that's a judgment word, men typically are looked at to be good at, mm-hmm. right? Whether it's car stuff, but like I think about like driving, right? Like, if we're going somewhere, I'm driving. Yeah. Right. And I
prefer that. Like,
right. Like, sit in the passenger seat. I don't even care if like, I can get us to where we're going. Yeah. One of the things I believe men can get good at is knowing directions, know how to get to places. All right. We have so much technology now. It's like, we should figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
Right. Sit in the passenger seat. I don't care if you want to talk, you want to listen to music, whatever. Yeah. I'm going to get us to where we need to go. And I think the important thing about like what you said there is, like, take the time to actually like figure out how to do it. So like, I remember when I was 21 years old, I changed my tire in my driveway to figure out how to actually do it. Because at that point, I just had never changed a tire, and I'm like, I should probably know how to do this just in case.
Yeah, everyone
change the tire, right? Figure it out. I changed it, and I was like, all right, like, I know how to do this, whatever. On my way home that day, a bed frame was on the side of the road, and someone drove and hit it, and it ricocheted into my truck.
Oh my gosh!
It popped my back right tire, and I was like driving, and I saw the tire pressure light go on, and it started blinking, and I was like, I don't think that's good.
I'm trained for this moment, though.
And so then I literally pulled over, and I like saw the back tire, and I looked up at God, and I was like, this is a good one. Like, this is pretty good. So I changed the tire. I called my dad. I'm like, you are not going to believe what just happened. And so little things like that I think having that evidence and getting those reps in those typical, what do you want to call them, man things, mm-hmm. helps us, I think, be a little bit more comfortable with who we are.
Didn't you feel more confident after that, though? You're like, something flies off, I got this.
Right, I got this. Like, even I know like the sidewalk thing is kind of funny, or like the door opening, like, it's these little things that compound over time. Yeah. Where you become more confident as a man, not even with a girlfriend or a wife or friends. It's like like if I'm alone, I'm become more comfortable in my own skin.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that leads nicely into the thing that I wanted to ask you about confidence. All right. Because we went fully deep into the male female, which is awesome, because that is a topic that I still want to get a better understanding of. But let's talk about confidence for a sec. What is one behavior that confident men consistently display?
Growth mindset. I mean, there's many things, but I mean, mainly just because I was probably listening to a podcast on my hot girl walk about growth mindset. But
which, by the way, I have a friend who said that if more people went on hot girl walks, we would solve more world problems, and I completely agree.
Yeah.
I go on hot girl walks like 2-3 times a week.
Yeah. You can even switch out the G. You could have it as a hot guy walk, hot girl walk.
Hot guy walk?
Yeah, well, because I said that, and the guy was like, I'm not going on a hot girl walk. I was like, hot guy walk? I don't know. We're going for a walk. We're walking Dakota.
I think it's the same. Yeah. Dakota's a guy, though, right?
No, Dakota's
a girl. Dakota's a girl. I called her Derek for them forever.
That's her middle name. But yes, so growth mindset, right? Like, to me, that is the most confident thing because it covers so many bases. There's a lot of things that could be confident, but if you or if someone is the kind of guy that is willing to grow and is willing to do the hard things because they believe that they can, like that's the whole difference of, depending on who's listening, right? You kind of have to back up a few steps of fixed mindset and a growth mindset. But a growth mindset is someone that something happens, right? It's not just, oh, woe is me, this happened to me. Growth mindset is, how can I take this situation and learn from it? Like my favorite quote of, I win or I learn, but I never lose. Anything that happens. So for a relationship of, you get in a argument or a discussion, that is either a moment for it to be you guys butting heads, or you can actually repair and come back stronger. Like, have you ever had in a relationship where at first it's like an argument and then somehow you make amends and you're like, I feel closer now?
Yes, I actually have. And I never was actually with this. Well, we were like kind of together. It was never like official. But I do remember the conversation that we had. And it was like this deep conversation that, frankly, I didn't want to have. Yet I knew I needed to have it.
Yeah.
And we had the conversation. Then I remember after feeling like I trusted her more as a person. She's married now and has a beautiful family. But at the time, I remember thinking like, I actually really enjoy that conversation that we just had. And I actually enjoy being with you now more because of that, the information that we just shared.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's because you were willing to push past the uncomfortable, right? You were willing to, yes, it's hard. You had to be vulnerable, but it creates growth. In a different situation, right? Like you continue to grow on that, but the whole growing implies, when you look at farmer's daughter here, like when you look at a crop, it has to push through a lot in order for it to be able to finally sprout. So someone that doesn't have a growth mindset, they're not going to put in the work in any category. I mean, they might get however far, but to me, that is such a level of confidence and something like I look for, right? Because you can have a good time with anyone when things are good. But when things are hard, when things are challenging, when it's tough conversations, are you willing to focus on the potential growth, or are you going to be stuck in the, well, this is how I've always done it? Okay, well, clearly it didn't work with your last relationship, so like I can't teach that. So it has to already be something that you work on individually. You have to do that work by yourself. Start with small things. It doesn't have to be relationship wise, but that compounds because your mind, your brain grows, as they've proven.
Yeah. So as you talk about like the growth mindset, two things came up with And do you think these things fall into a growth mindset? And let's use a guy for an example. Admitting when he doesn't know something, or admitting when he was wrong and apologizing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Do you categorize those as so I'm thinking, for example, like the car thing, right? Let's say that a guy doesn't know, like I don't personally know a ton about cars. I know how to I know how to change the tire, put gas in it, simple little things, right?
Yeah.
Started a car, jumped a car, simple little things like that. If it was like, hey, the alternator went, right? Or like whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think I'd look at it and be like, I don't know how to solve this.
Yeah.
Yet I do know the proper steps that we can take to solve this.
Yes.
Let's get the mechanic on the phone, right? Do I need to bring this in? Do you I will figure out how to solve it.
Yep.
Yet I'm not the who, not the how type of thing.
Yes.
Right. So do you see those things playing in? And then the other one is the apologizing. I put a post up a couple days ago that said, you can learn a lot from a guy by the way he apologizes.
Oh my gosh.
And it was only women who liked it. It was only chicks who liked it. There was no dudes who liked it. I was like, that's interesting. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, we're splitting those into two because there's very much the whole apology thing. Yes. Okay. So to your original point about the car problems, yeah, it's the principle of what you're saying of if a guy were to just be like, oh, yeah, that's weird. That's not helping me solve it, right? Or opposed to providing, protecting, or in the masculine, definition of goal action oriented, even just calling of it's not that you physically have to be out there, with a monkey wrench or I don't know. I'm like,
yeah, I might break the car even more. Frankly, let's get somebody on this who knows what they're doing.
Right. But it's still, you are taking action and figuring it out, especially in the world that we live in, with the maps thing. You don't have to know how to get there. You can literally plug it in, but you're not being like, oh yeah, where was this? Or you're taking action. I feel protected. I feel like I can just breathe and trust you. It doesn't mean all right, bye, I'm going shopping while you do this, right? Again, that's not taking advantage of the situation.
Is that toxic femininity right there?
Well, I was gonna say with the maps thing, I was thinking about, I had to learn of not to be oh no, this way's faster. No, go this way. Stop. That's me going in my masculine. Let him drive. What's the difference if he takes Soho opposed to Bayshore? I have straight up let a man go the wrong way.
Soho versus Bayshore.
Yeah, and he was I was yeah.
Well, where are we going?
Yeah, I know. And I'm always you tell me, am I in the driver's seat? No. But sorry, back to the original point. Yes, it's still the definition of taking action. However, taking action looks to you. But that's, again, you guys communicate that. If for some reason she didn't feel safe in that situation, that's where you guys have to talk about it and get to the root of it. Maybe it's something of when I was I'm probably making this scenario up. When I was in high school, my car broke down and that boyfriend, whatever, there's something, if how you think you're showing up is providing for her or protecting her and it doesn't meet the mark, okay, reassess. Everyone's version is going to look different. But yeah, you don't need to be able to build a car or build a chicken coop or, whatever your definition is. It's going to depend on the relationship. Very much growth mindset though, because you have to be able to have those conversations. To the second point of saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you said about apologizing. Correctly. So.
That's a tough one. That's an interesting, because I'm thinking about the times in my life when I've apologized.
Yeah.
And it hurt, and it sucked in the moment.
Yeah.
Yet I really meant it.
Why did it hurt though?
Because I think it was highlighting my flaws as a human.
Yeah.
Yet I think they were necessary.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like that vulnerability piece where it's like in the moment I feel so weak and so little. Yet I know that the feeling those things and still doing it is what is going to make me a better man.
Yeah, I see that a lot with guys. And I'm not saying that girls can't also feel this way, but I notice the tendency of sometimes when something is brought to a guy's attention, it can be taken as I'm not good enough. Now, and I'm speaking as myself, but I believe whoever is bringing that, hey, you caused this pain, or I didn't like this, whatever, that person, the initiator, has an obligation to bring it in a respectful way and not attack and be like, you always, don't generalize, don't demean, don't put down, right? Because it's going to put them on the defensive. But in the relationship with the wounded masculine energy, I had to learn that no matter how you communicate, you can't communicate to someone that doesn't want to hear what you have to say. I mean, I was going crazy, like this is what I communicate for a living and I can't get through. It had nothing to do, right? He hadn't done that work to be able to have the emotional capacity to acknowledge if he had done something to hurt me, because by acknowledging it shined a light on his own imperfections. The sad thing is we are all human. We are all imperfect. We are all imperfect, right? That's not the point. The point is, can I take accountability? It might have not been my intention to run over your foot, but if I run over your foot, it still hurts. Doesn't mean I'm the worst person. It probably means I'm a bad driver, but so yeah, that's like baseline of not even in a relationship. Like, learn how to apologize. And if just breaking it down for everyone, if there's a but in your sorry, it's not an apology. Do not say, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, but you really shouldn't have, no. Now, you can have your own feelings, but if someone is bringing something to your attention, that's not the time for you to say, well, I did that because you really pissed me off, when you should have brought that up. You shouldn't have harbored that, because now you are weaponizing your feelings in order to counteract and not take accountability for something that you did, whether it was your intention or not. But this simple, a good apology can take someone from when I am just heated and not lashing out because I'm being responsible, but if I'm heated about something, and a solid apology of, I am so sorry, that wasn't my intention, but I can absolutely see how that made you feel. And that's not at all how I was thinking. Play around with what works for you, do what feels natural. But at the end of the day, you don't have to agree with what they are saying, but you don't need to dismiss. Just validate what they're saying. That was a constant conversation that I used to try to communicate of, I'm not asking for you to agree with what I'm saying, but I'm telling you, you hurt me. So do you not care enough about me if I'm saying you hurt me? At that point, it doesn't even matter what happened. My reaction is, I don't understand really what I did, but I do care about you. So I am so sorry that I clearly hurt you, and I want to talk more about it. What can I do different? That's a big, let me just throw that in there for the listeners. Sorry only works so many times. If you repeat the actions, it is now manipulation, and you will lose their trust. So when you do something, you say the sorries and you hear them out, And sometimes, especially to guys, it's not just as simple as, I'm sorry. Okay, now because females were emotional, that's the feminine, I want you to see the pain that you caused me. I'm not like attacking you, and you shouldn't be if you are operating healthy, but like I just want to know that you understand and you see the pain that you unintentionally caused. And then the closing of how do we move on from this? What can I do different in this situation? Because I said this word and to me it didn't mean anything, but I now understand it was clearly upsetting and not appropriate. In that situation, what could I have done differently? What did you need from me? Because guys are logical. You guys are factual. We're emotional. And I have my own facts living in my brain, but there's like a lot of emotions tied to it. And that's where you end up talking over and around and over and around. Yeah. It's a lot.
That was a deep answer.
Yeah, because...
So for all the guys listening, go back to the start of that and listen to that answer, because that is something that I don't think we are taught.
No. It should be numbers, letters, learning how to say you're sorry for guys and girls.
And exercise.
And exercise.
I think one of the things you said too, which is I loved, was the but.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we use, this is some of the stuff that we've used in like our corporate client stuff, is this like language model of yes and versus yeah but. Mm-hmm. So like anytime I try to say, like anytime I use the word but, I think it's like a swear word. So I try not to say the word but.
Yeah.
I'll always try to see if I can replace it with the word and, because it extends it. It keeps the dialogue going instead of but, which is just kind of like a knife and just cuts
counteracts.
it. Right, and it basically throws away, hey, I'm really sorry, but it's like, well, there goes the sorry. So now get your, right now I'm trying to get my point across.
Yeah, that's a
right?
good point. Instead
of saying, I'm really sorry and, right, explaining. So that was a pretty deep answer.
I know, I'm sorry. That's a lot.
No, I think it's
and
important.
It's needed.
It's needed.
See, I didn't say
like,
but.
That's the thing. Like just the fact that we're never taught that.
We're not.
Right? Like even like the emotion, even the stuff about like the energy, right? The male versus female roles, right? The emotional intelligence, how to say sorry. Like imagine if you had a class when you were 5th grade, 6th, 7th grade, like when you were kind of like aware of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think about like who I was in 7th grade. It was an emotional mess. Like I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I was afraid of girls,
Yeah.
low confidence, low self-esteem. And it's like, if I was taught some of this emotional intelligence, mental fitness, all of this, it's like your whole life would be different.
Yeah.
Everything would be different. So
Yeah.
I can't emphasize the importance of this stuff.
Yep.
All right. So we've been going for about 1 hour and 13 minutes here.
I know, it's
and
just so easy to keep asking away.
So we'll ask you one more, because I hope the cameras are still rolling here. I just wanted to make sure. This is the last question that I typically like to ask people.
Okay.
All right. What is one thing that men can do to be that guy?
What's one thing? My brain's like ding, 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 ding.
Oh, so there's like a lot of things that.
Well, there's always a lot of things that guys and girls can do, but like, do the work. And however you want to take that, but especially for yourself. You have to sit through the uncomfortable things, the messy things. Maybe if it's the feeling internally like I don't feel like I can protect anyone. I don't feel like I can even protect myself. Okay, then go do the research, find somewhere, start taking classes. However building confidence looks for you, and that's just one example, right? But do the hard things. But you have to first get to know yourself. Figure out who you are. Figure out your trigger. I know everyone overuses that words, right? But figure out what are your values. And just literally, no one else can interpret who you are. Like, that is literally your sole job. Know thyself. No one else can do that for you. And as you begin to know thyself, it's going to sprout into literally all the other things. When I'm thinking of like, what can, guys do to be that guy? Those things will start to pop up, because that guy is going to look different for every guy. But it starts with knowing thyself. Do it tired. Do it unmotivated. Do it sad. Do it happy. You just got to do it, because no one else can. And if you don't, and you meet the right person and you haven't done that work, well, now you are trying to know thyself, but like also tailor them to fit this person's bubble. And you're going to be half of a shell of the being that you're supposed to be. And you're also not going to attract a high value woman, because she's going to spot that. She's going to pick up on the energy. You can't fake that confidence, because it's, especially, I read energies the moment I walk into a room.
I remember you told me that. You freaked me out the first time you said that.
But I can't explain it, but I mean, communication is mostly body language and, expressions. But when I first met you, I could tell you'd done that work, because you omit that confidence. But it's not the wounded masculine, it's a stillness. Which, immediately brings us back to the feminine and masculine energy, right? Of, you're not out here being loud, trying to prove yourself, of look how macho and masculine I am, because that's not healthy. Masculine, I'm confident in who I am. I can't explain that. When you meet people like that, you know. But yes, point of know thyself, do the work, because no one can do it for you.
Do the work, guys. Know thyself. And I think, too, the underlying characteristic that it also shows when you are a guy who is doing the work and is trying to figure out who they are, what they value, a byproduct of that is effort. And when a woman sees that a guy is capable of putting forth effort towards something, it can also show that he's capable of putting effort towards that relationship.
Yeah, that's a green flag.
Right?
Even if you don't have your stuff figured out, or can you acknowledge, hey, I don't have this figured out, but I'm working on it. That's not a red flag. That's a green flag.
There's the growth mindset, too.
It all just ties right in. It starts with know thyself. We should get little shirts that say,
know thyself.
Be that guy.
Be that guy. Know thyself. Well, thank you so much.
Of course,
for
this is fun.
All of your expertise. I think you are the closest thing to a real life Lara Croft Tomb Raider that I personally know.
Thank you.
And it's funny, because I had a friend of mine ask me that a while ago. They were like, do I remind you of Lara Croft Tomb Raider? And I was like, no. I was like, no, none of us are Lara Croft Tomb Raider. And I was like, you know what? You're actually probably the closest to it. So thank you for being you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for the conversations that we have about the energies, about the roles. I really enjoy our relationship and how you've helped me become a better man.
Thank you. This has been so fun. And the moment we had our first conversation, I was like, I have never met a guy with the vision that you have for helping other men. And if we could do more of that, we would be healing each other instead of hurting each other. So
ooh, heal instead of hurt.
Yeah.
Abby Hammock.
Yes, like a beach hammock.
Like a beach hammock. Like a beach hammock. Thank you for being on the podcast today. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you got something useful or something entertaining from today's episode. All I ask is that you give us a like or a rating or even write a review. This helps a ton with getting this podcast out to other young guys so they can hear this information. Thank you so much for all of your support, and keep being that guy. We'll see you guys.